What happens when the biggest supplier of gunpowder ingredients on the planet suddenly shuts off the valve? Unfortunately, that's no longer just a what-if scenario, it's happening right now, and it's hammering the American shooting community. Toward the end of last year, China, the major global source of both nitrocellulose and antimony, which are essential for smokeless powder and primer production, stopped sending these materials to the United States. Now here we are in the middle of 2025, and the pipeline is still locked down. Powder deliveries are stalled, primers are disappearing fast, and reloaders across the country are feeling the squeeze. You won't hear this covered on mainstream media, but if you've stepped into a gun shop, scrolled through reloading forums, or checked out your local ammo shelves lately, the panic is hard to miss. Prices are skyrocketing, inventory is vanishing, and folks are starting to wonder how much longer we can keep rolling out handloads before everything grinds to a halt. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what's happening behind the scenes, why it's a huge deal for anyone who reloads or shoots regularly, and what you can do to get ahead before this turns into a full-on supply chain disaster. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hang tight. This one's critical. It's crazy to think a single policy move from across the ocean could bring so much disruption to your reloading bench here in the States. But back in August of 2024, China quietly pulled the plug on outbound shipments of nitrocellulose, also known as gun cotton, the core compound behind modern smokeless powder, and antimony, which is the element that strengthens projectiles and is vital to consistent primer ignition. Once those materials stopped flowing, the entire reloading ecosystem in America began to seize up. Here's the harsh truth. China doesn't just play a role in this market, it owns it. By the end of 2023, they were producing over 4/5 of all ammo-grade nitrocellulose on the planet, and nearly 9/10 of refined antimony used in primers and bullet alloys. When Beijing clamped down on exports under the guise of national security, the rest of the world didn't have the capacity to backfill the gap. Yes, there are smaller producers in countries like Germany, India, and Sweden, but most of their output is locked into long-term NATO defense contracts. Russia used to offset some of the antimony shortage, but that door's been slammed shut due to sanctions. What does this mean for us here at home? It means that American powder blending facilities and primer manufacturers are effectively throttled. This isn't just a hiccup, it's a full-blown supply chain chokehold. For reloaders, this is shaping up to be the worst material shortage we've seen in over 10 years, and there's no clear end in sight. Ask anyone hanging out at the range, or spend 5 minutes on any reloading forum, and you'll hear it loud and clear: something isn't right. Ever since China slammed the door on exports, it's been like watching a slow avalanche roll through the shooting community. Reloading powders like Varjay H4350 and Unique, once reliable staples, are now either completely wiped off shelves or selling for double their old prices. Even top-tier online retailers are showing back orders for weeks, if not longer. Walk into a local shop on powder delivery day, and you'll find folks lined up before the doors open. By the time you grab a coffee and circle back, the stock's already gone. And it gets worse with primers. Prices are out of control. Basic small rifle primers are going for between $120 and $150 per brick. Large rifle and magnum types? Even higher, if you can find them at all. Some shooters are making do with surplus Serbian or Russian primers while they last. Over on forums like Reddit's r/reloading or trapshooters.com, you'll see post after post reading, "Haven't seen any CCI in over 6 months," or "No 1000 since last September." What's pushing folks over the edge isn't just the short supply, it's the uncertainty. That's what's really fueling the panic. People who used to reload once in a while for hunting season or casual weekend shooting are now panic buying and sitting on every last primer. Some are even avoiding range time altogether to make their stash last longer. Others are jumping calibers or selling off spare components for a profit. Sound familiar? This is starting to feel a lot like 2020 all over again, but this time, the panic isn't political. It's driven by a global bottleneck in raw materials. Even worse, we've seen internal communications between major retailers and suppliers confirmed by independent sources telling distributors that civilian backorders may not be filled for the rest of the year. Inventory is being rerouted. That's not speculation. That's documented reality. So when we talk about a powder shortage now, we're not just talking about inconvenience. We're talking about whether you can continue to train, reload, or defend your home. And every day, that future looks shakier. It's wild how fast the ammunition world can flip when national security comes into play. The moment China tightened up its export controls, American manufacturers pivoted hard toward fulfilling military and law enforcement contracts. Civilian demand fell to the back of the line overnight. And again, this isn't rumor. We've seen verified retailer memos from companies like Alliant confirming they're pushing civilian deliveries well into 2025 due to overwhelming Department of Defense orders. Take Street Marks powder down in Florida. It's the largest nitrocellulose-based powder facility in the country, operated by General Dynamics. Their entire output right now is going toward military needs, with practically nothing left over for the civilian side of the house. Even smaller players like Shell Shock Technologies have come forward publicly, admitting that government contracts are swallowing up powder, primers, and brass long before commercial shelves see a single box. Bottom line? When the supply chain gets tight, civilian shooters are the first ones pushed to the end of the line. If you haven't already stocked deep or built strong supplier relationships, this summer might hit harder than you think if it hasn't already. America's ammunition industry has pulled a hard pivot, practically overnight. Street Marks powder, the backbone of our domestic smokeless powder production, has fully shifted gears to prioritize defense contracts, all driven by growing international instability and federal demands. And this isn't just rumor mill talk. Wholesale distributors and industry insiders are confirming what most of us already feel. Civilian supply chains are being throttled to feed government demand. Some of the biggest names in retail have already issued warnings that powder and primer shipments will be erratic for the foreseeable future. Earlier this year, Shell Shock Technologies laid it out clearly: raw material shipments, including those used to make primer cups and brass, are heading to government orders before anything else. That means production runs at major ammunition manufacturers are being funneled toward federal contracts. The powders and primers that we used to count on for our home benches, they're being rerouted. And it's not about panic buyers or bad planning on the retail end. It's a calculated shift to feed overseas military support and fulfill growing Department of Defense obligations. Now, reloaders and recreational shooters are left battling over the scraps. The shortage isn't just about material availability. It's a symptom of how geopolitics are now steering the global supply chain like a weapon. China's clampdown on exports of nitrocellulose, the base compound behind modern propellants, and refined antimony, essential for hardening bullets and making primers, is part of a bigger strategy. Over the past 10 years, China has expanded its control over strategic minerals, rare earth elements, lithium, and now even chemicals that are crucial for ammunition. These aren't temporary interruptions, they're deliberate pressure points being applied with precision. Defense suppliers in Europe are now openly acknowledging their dangerous reliance on Chinese nitrocellulose. And here in the United States, the concerns are bubbling under the surface, just without as much publicity. There's talk of restarting antimony mining operations in places like Idaho and signing long-term agreements with Australia or even Tajikistan, but none of that is going to help folks trying to stay supplied this season. Mines take years to develop, refineries take capital and infrastructure, and tariffs designed to reduce our dependence on foreign materials have ended up jacking up the cost of alternatives. Civilian ammunition isn't treated like a consumer good anymore. It's become a strategic resource, and unfortunately, we're not at the front of that line. But here's the deal. A shortage doesn't mean you sit on your hands. Reloaders across the country are finding ways to adapt. Folks are joining forces, swapping components, cutting back range time to prioritize defensive drills and hunting prep, and getting creative with their setups. Some are changing calibers based on availability, or reconfiguring their presses to turn out rounds with whatever powder they can still find locally. Flexibility is the name of the game. Community matters more than ever. If you've got solid people around you, you'll keep your bench running. It's wild how something as mechanical and detail-oriented as reloading can suddenly feel so personal, but here we are. This isn't just about loading cartridges. It's about keeping control over your own capabilities. When a single export decision made across the ocean can leave American shooters scrambling for basic reloading supplies, it makes you realize how fragile some of our independence really is. But if there's one thing reloaders are known for, it's resilience. We figure things out. We pass on knowledge. We keep moving forward. So if this breakdown helped you better understand what's going on, or gave you an idea on how to tighten up your preparedness, share it with your circle. Keep the conversation alive. In today's climate, staying sharp matters just as much as staying stocked. Appreciate you sticking around.